do not confuse privilege with like privilege that has been given and privilege that has been taken to achievement. Pursuit of glory and privilege and actualizing that pursuit, that is extremely important. Hard work is hard work. That is a constant. Where you start on the line in the face of hard work is irrelevant. It's about where you are and where you're going. Some people start behind the line, sure. But if they work hard enough, they can get way farther than some of those people that were closer to the finish line.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 23rd episode of the Conscious Cast, all right? So my boy Cole is here. It's been a fucking fat minute since we've had him back on the Conscious Cast, my co-host, my main man in this mission of, discussing crap.
Dropping knowledge.
So
steaming hot piles of knowledge. But yeah, I had an unfortunate accident, but we are good.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
We are good.
Yes, we are good. And yeah, you've bounced back. Adversity.
Very
well.
much.
Yeah, very well. I mean, my man. It is fighting. As you can see on the channel, we got a banger of a boxing cinematic out. It's doing actually wicked well on the channel. Like it's probably like 160% better than other videos that are going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, props to both of us for providing that
Indeed.
content for you. Yeah, so without further ado, our topic today is on privilege. And so I was recently talking to Cole, probably 10 minutes ago about this. We figured out the topic
Before the
today.
cameras are on.
Yeah, before the cameras are on. And, privilege is a big thing because privilege goes unseen. It's invisible with the eyes. And unless you consciously recognize it within your life and you see, like I said before, and you become aware of, holy shit, man, I am... the position, how I'm situated within my life, what kind of circumstance I was born into, what external factors that are out of my control that have luckily been of preference to me have been very good. And one of the, today I was I was watching an online lecture in my Existentialism class, and essentially Existentialism is, in a nutshell, that we ascribe meaning to our lives, and we did a short on pretty much this topic where pretty much how there's no inherent meaning to the universe, at least on our accounts, and depending on your environment and depending on your own, I guess you could say, intuition, or you as a sentient being, you ascribe meaning to this life, even though it has no inherent meaning, but. So as I was watching that lecture, one of the main points he brought up was how individuals that have a great deal of privilege in their life, when those privileges are taken away from them, for example, like the pandemic, a lot of privileges were taken away that we took for granted, they feel as though their rights are being imposed upon, right? And so, in a sense, since they have so much privilege, though they were unintentionally oppressors of those individuals that did not have a privilege, right? And so I'm using these terms very loosely, okay? I do not have a solid grounding understanding in this, but I reflected back on this and I was like, wow, man, that is so fucking true. Holy shit, whenever something is taken away from me or taken away from us, we're just like, oh, I want that shit back. It feels like our freedom is being imposed upon, and then we as the oppressed, even though we're the oppressors, want that freedom back that we once had. So my question to you, Cole, is: have you ever found yourself in a real life circumstance where you've recognized privilege, you've seen privilege? It's become from the invisible to the visible for you.
Yeah, and this is not a lot of people know this about me because I don't make it known, but for I'm going to speak to this in a physical manner because one year for my birthday, I didn't get any gifts. I just accepted donations. Any money you would have paid me for my Christmas, my birthday presents, I put towards getting kids with cleft palate surgery.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And, yeah, and it's that is one of the most shining example. It's and it's so simple because these kids can't even smile. And it just put that into perspective. Yeah. They were born without a smile. Yeah. And it's I'm so glad that I could have used 1 year of my birth to collect presents, and just give that so I could give a couple children a smile. Yeah. And it's that's one of the things where it's that perception. It's like you can't have a beautiful smile because you were born a certain way, and it's like that's like everyone else who just has it and takes it for granted is like, that's a constant reminder that you are imperfect, or at least that's how you view yourself.
Yeah.
But it's like, and I'm glad I could have given that opportunity to to hopefully someone out there that can now smile because of what I did when I was younger. And it's like that's a big shining example. But a thing about like privilege, you see it get thrown around a lot today by, frankly, fucking goons who are just trying to use it to put people down, and like because they perceive that they have done them injustice for their achievement, and that's something that I think should really be cracked down upon, but in the court of public opinion. But I doubt that'll happen because everybody's trying to. It's all about seeing who's at the top and how far can I drag them down with my insults of throwing stones a lot of. But it's like, it's the same thing. It's like they have what I want, so I feel oppressed by their privilege. But you need to consider something. What do you call privilege and our glory that is begot by achievement? Does that qualify as privilege if you earned it? How did you perceive that?
Are you asking me that question?
Yes, that is a question I'm posing.
Can you rephrase that again?
So let's use the fighting example. Say I start at the bottom of the weight division and I become champion. Okay. Am I privileged that I am champion because I earned it, or is it not privileged because I've earned it and I've achieved it through my own volition?
That's very interesting. I don't think that you've gained that position based on privilege.
Exactly.
No, I don't think you've got to that point based on privilege. And this is a big thing too, because like you see how America is claimed to be a meritocracy, right? And how hard work pretty much determines where you are on the ladder, right? And so this is kind of in contrast to your point, right? So depending on if you do have that privilege. And let's just put the boxer example to the side, because I know there's many people who have come from rags to riches in boxing, okay? Like that is just the fact. But a lot of people that have gained success also have had tremendous external factors in their favors. For example, they were born into a family that was, let's just say, in a wealthy position, and maybe was they were in a capitalist society such as the U.S., where it's like we discussed about this on a previous podcast. Like it's built for the white straight male, and for us to succeed, unfortunately, and hopefully over time, that becomes more balanced. And so, like with that, like you could say the American dream, for example, right? Like those few who are privileged are able to explore the American dream. But I also feel as though, like if we're talking specifically within that domain of hard work, where you are is based on hard work, right? And so, like for example, if we're talking about like the boxing domain, right, like how hard you work and like your level of success really is determined by hard work. And like obviously there's external factors, like say you get injured or something like that, you got to deal with a lot of obstacles. But whether let's just like put the boxing example to the side, let's just take YouTube for example, right? And you just like you become so like distraught and just like beaten down by the numbers. Like for example, you take our numbers for example, right? And like I bet you I'm sure there's someone out there that like did YouTube for a little bit, got no views, and was like, man, fuck this, I'm done. All I want is the views. But luckily for us, we keep going. Anything for views. But like luckily for us, we have that root grounding us, and we keep going. And that hard work is not privilege, right? And that hard work of where we're going and where we're going to get is not going to be based on privilege. Like, don't get me wrong.
It's earned by growth.
It's earned by growth.
Like, going back to kind of what you were saying before, some people are born with a head start. And some people are born a mile behind the finish line.
Yeah, for sure.
But still, hard work remains the same.
Yeah.
That is the constant.
Yeah.
If you want to get from here to there, you got to work for it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't matter how behind. Now, keep in mind, this is semi-hypocritical, because, you know, my family isn't rich by any means of the imagination, but there are those worse off than me.
Yeah, definitely.
But the point I'm trying to make is, you could start a mile behind the finish line, or behind the starting line, but you can still get to the finish line if you grind hard enough.
Yeah.
And hard work can transcend the concept of privilege. But what we need to remember is we need to dissociate privilege from achievement. Because those who have achieved can't be viewed as privileged, because that's what they've taken, that's what they've earned.
Yeah.
And a lot a lot of people will shit on people like The Rock. The Rock, he's fucking rich as shit now, but he earned that. You know, through, you know, like $7 Productions, like his company. Like, he had $7 in his pocket. He was broke as fuck, and he took that. The Rock is only privileged because he achieved that privilege.
Yeah, and I think also I think the distinction you made between the two was very good.
Yeah.
And I think also it's important to recognize that to get in, like, so what you achieved is not a privilege, right? So, like, let's just take that example. So, like, let's just say The Rock, for example. Like, what he's achieved is not solely a privilege, but to get to that point, it required privilege, right? In the sense that, see, like, this is the weird thing with privilege. I should probably not use the word privilege. I should probably use the word like external factors or opportunities, you know, aligned for him to able to get to that point, because he's like one in a few, like, he's like a lottery story, you know what I mean? It's very hard to get to that point. And like when I use the word privilege, it's just like, oh god,
it's very, the word is very muddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Due to the way it's used nowadays.
Like, even when I said it, I was like, oh god, like I don't want to use that word. But like, but yes, The Rock worked extremely hard. Of course, there's no denying that, right? And what he has achieved deserves all the respect. But I also think what fueled that achievement what also has to be recognized was those spontaneous opportunities that, I guess you could say, came to him, and, you know, he capitalized on. You know, because like, not like, for example, I literally did a debate on this in my management class. Take Bill Gates, for example, same type of dude. Like, he's a fucking billionaire. You know, he started like I don't know if he started in his basement, but, you know, he started like at a low level, and, you know, he exploded.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos too.
Jeff Bezos, and pretty much these guys. There's individuals that are just as smart as these guys and have the same type of skill set. And I guess you could say for Bill Gates, like computer science, they have the same amount of skill, but they're not nearly as successful. And it's like that difference is based on, in my opinion, those external factors. And obviously, you know, it's very hard to like succinctly compare the two, but you can kind of see, if you can understand like that distinction between the two, it is based on luck to certain extents.
To a degree. But a lot of what you see these people say is like, it's very much like, I guess, look at Elon Musk, for example. Like, the old, I forget what year it was, but like the automotive like crash, like in like what, 2008 or something.
Yeah.
Like, they barely survived that. That was luck. Yeah. And the only electric car company barely surviving, that's luck. Yeah. But here's the thing. For a lot of these guys who have made these who have gotten to these places of high status, you can make your opportunities. Yeah. And it's like, there are ways you can, I guess, socially engineer, for lack of a better term, like, opportunities and doors to open up for you.
Definitely.
So, and that's definitely a big part of it as well. Yeah. Like, you know, Raytheon calls, you pick up the fucking phone, you know? And it's
exactly.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, you really do have to analyze, like, where am I and where am I going? Or, like, where am I now and where am I going? Yeah. You know? And it's like, I'll use this analogy again. You know, combat is like a game of chess. You need to know where you are and where you are going. And it's like, what vectors of attack are open to me? And what ones can I open via setup? So, same works for opportunity. What doors are open now? And what closed doors that I cannot yet see can I force to open by closing this door and this door in combination? You know, like what opportunities can I engineer to open for me? So it's like that's something you really do have to consider, and it's like that requires a lot of mental strategy, and you know, so I guess for lack of a better term, societal manipulation. That's a very aggressive term, but you are manipulating the world around you in order to work in your favor.
Of course.
I'm not saying you this can
it doesn't have to be taken in a negative
but
way.
it can but it can easily be done
100%.
negatively.
Yeah, it has a negative connotation to it.
But
Sure.
initially, these big fucking fat cats, for lack of a better term, have gotten there. A good amount of them have gotten there via hand-me-downs from their parents or being born closer to the finish line than others.
Yeah.
But there is a fair degree of legwork that was done to get there, and it's like it can't be all attributed to luck.
Mm-hmm.
Luck is certainly
I
luck
agree.
is certainly a factor for some of them, but you have to consider how, when, and what was the, I guess, strategy behind them making their own luck.
Yeah. To get to that point where, we can start, like, for instance, we are in a position where we can climb the ladder, right? There's no denying that.
We're already being in college ahead of a lot of people.
Exactly. Yeah.
And a good amount of them, it's kind of fucked up how people attribute it to, some people aren't smart enough to go to college, and I'm like, that's very disingenuous. But I like to look at it as a matter of sometimes conventional schooling isn't for everybody.
Oh, of course.
But but people trying to boil it down to an intelligence thing, and it's it doesn't have to be that way. Some people just hate fucking school, and it's a lot of people are better off in a automotive lab. Or not lab, a fucking garage, just tinkering, and that's what they love to do. And it's what's college going to do for that guy, Exactly. And it's
entrepreneurs,
Yeah, exactly. It's and we need to stop attributing it to strictly intelligence.
Oh, of course, yeah, but, your degree of intelligence doesn't determine your worth.
Not at all.
And that's a big thing with veganism and stuff like that. We won't get into that right now. We got an episode coming down the pipeline
Definitely.
for that.
We got to work on that. Yeah, I'm quite excited.
It'll be a good one. It'll probably get a little bit tension built up. Probably get a little negative vibe going, but nothing too bad. We'll
strictly intellectual debate.
Exactly.
Carnivore versus veganism. Put it
Who's
on.
got the bigger penis? No, I'm joking.
Who has the larger schlong? But it's going to be very good.
Yeah, very good.
Bring lots of preparation. Bring a lot of evidence to the table.
Yes.
Because we've had these different experiences on these different diets, and trust me, I got a lot to talk about my own.
Yeah, and it'll be a good thing, because this is definitely kind of like on a little side note. It's very important for people on the opposite ends of the spectrum to compare their views, because we see things completely differently. So in terms of this not like in life in general, we share probably 90% of the same values, maybe more than that. But it'll be interesting to compare those areas because that's what's required to make growth and progress. But regardless,
perspective is important.
Exactly.
But moving on,
back to privilege. So like I said before, the invisible becomes visible, and where we are, for us, we were born into obviously there's major corruption within the United States. There's no denying that,
question.
But you compare us to somewhere in the Middle East that doesn't value
I thought you were about to say Ireland. I'm like, that's funny.
Somewhere Ireland? No, I'm joking. But yeah, somewhere in the Middle East that literally doesn't recognize a woman's rights or something like
government.
That. Or has a central government that takes care of the roads, for example, and basic necessities that obviously I understand that not everyone has access to, and radical systematic changes are required. Yes, I agree with that. But luckily for us, we were born into a country that has that is supposedly a democracy, right? And we have these basic human rights such as education, right? We have free education, right? We were born into families where we could have our basic needs met, and beyond that, And so it's so and that I was the existentialism class noted today. Over time, those privileges become hidden as we humans, like anything else, like with habits, becomes normalized, right? And it becomes accepted, and it becomes within our current paradigm. When I mean like paradigm, I mean like set of assumptions that we operate on. Worldview, right? And that's like how we are, right? We have all these privileges within this domain, this paradigm. And when something, for example, like the pandemic occurs, like you talked about, you could probably note this after I'm done with my little spiel, like social life, for example, right? Like the pandemic, like that's in a sense, that is a privilege. One, because we have the ability to speak. Two, because we have the ability to communicate with others, understand what they're saying.
And free speech.
And free speech, these are all privileges. And it's like, when you think of these things, it's like, wow. You recognize all that you have, and you begin to relinquish all the desires that obviously you want, but do you really want them?
Wants versus need, and it's great. It's good that it's good that you brought in COVID. That was a good segue because I literally yesterday I have a philosophy class called Ethics of Technology. And what are the ethical implications of the inevitable of aggressive expansion of technological growth? And as a cybersecurity major, I'm a fan of technological growth because that means job security. But nonetheless, the point I'm making is I was told to speak upon there was this chapter. It was kind of interesting because it was I think my professor did this delivery. It was from this book called, I think, AI 2041, and it was this chapter called Contactless Love. And it was about these two, and it was tied to the COVID epidemic. And it was based off of this girl who was dating this dude in Brazil. Never met before. They did stuff, virtually through this world where VR is out of but it essentially enabled her to be a shut-in. And it's I thought that was very questionable.
What do I mean by shut-in?
Never goes outside. Out of fear of the outside.
Okay, that makes sense.
Disease, really, I think it was nosophobic or something like that. But the point I'm making is, as technology progresses, as privilege escalates, could that enable us to be less social? And to a degree, it already has. Look no further than social media.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah.
And from a male perspective, a lot of guys have forgotten how to talk to girls because of they just haven't, because they've been on their phones. That's how they communicate. And it's personally, I suck ass at texting. I suck.
Same here.
I'm terrible at it. When it comes to engaging with a potential romantic partner. But vocally, in person, I am far, you can tell, I'm far more charismatic. My jokes hit, and not when you're attached to in a not a emotionless text message. And it's it's a different game I have to play than somebody who's really good at texting. But the point I'm making is it's discouraged face-to-face interaction. And COVID hasn't helped with any of it. People even introverts I've heard have complained about not being able to go outside when conventionally they're very much leave me alone, I need to recharge. Yeah. And in my class, they spoke on it. It's introverts were initially I was nice, I don't have to talk to people. But then it was fuck, I miss going outside and talking to people. Yeah, it's just such a paradigm shift when fundamentally, psychologically speaking, they recharge their batteries alone. They enjoy their time alone. Being so alone that they miss other people. The people that like being alone because of COVID and the enablement of technology to just move on. It's very fascinating to look at that. And there's not a lot of people in Zimbabwe that can be doing Zoom meetings now. Keep in mind, I was just throwing in the name. I actually I know jack shit about Zimbabwe, but some little African continent that is third world. Exactly. The Congo. There we go. That's a better example. But they don't have technology, but they don't need to do Zoom meetings. They don't have
the happiest people.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very interesting to see that. It's when you just have a tribe and the only thing that you really have to worry about is your next meal. Exactly. It's the simplicity of that. I forget who it was, but I think it might have been David Cho. He's an artist. He lived with this indigenous tribe, and they were talking about it, and it's you guys want to come to America or something? It's America? Is that the people where people they eat so much and then they kill themselves for being fat? It's like, why would I want to go there? And it's like, holy shit, that is fascinating. Because it's like having...
American dream just became the American terror.
Exactly, and the American nightmare.
The American nightmare, like, there you go.
It's fascinating how much of a dichotomy there is, where it's like they are not privileged by any sense of the imagination, but they're happier because of it. This abundance that we are entitled to as Americans is very, like, you see it everywhere. Is very poisonous.
It poses the question: is privilege, or like, obviously, privilege? Obviously, there's a major area of privilege that is great, but it poses the question, and I think this is very relevant to like the situation.
How much is too much?
How much is too much? Is privilege, in like that domain you're talking about, is privilege a bad thing?
Yeah.
And I think it can be.
Yeah,
I think it definitely can be.
Like look no further. Like, we are very much like different, like, from most people. Like, the average American is overweight, not healthy, impoverished.
70% are overweight.
Yeah, and it's like we're part of that 30% that's fit. Well, like 30% of Americans, like, just because you're not overweight doesn't mean you're healthy.
Yeah.
And like, look at the muscle. Like, think of the index. Where's the muscle mass in that 30%? Like, we're in such a small category. Yeah. And then, like, me myself, I'm in an even smaller category. Like, of people that are fit and have a substantial amount of martial arts training and can protect themselves in a violent situation.
True.
Like, I'm such a outlier to the conventional American that it's like, because the bar is set so low, you don't need to do that much to be viewed as exceptional. Yeah. And it's quite fascinating that is the case. Because, like, let me speak in terms of feudal Japan. The samurai were, they were privileged. They were born into a clan. And that caste system of classism, where, like, you can be a warrior because you have the training, you have, noble blood, you can rise to this point. But without a doubt, there are definitely great warriors that were born into slavery and peasantry, and serfdom. And it's like, we don't have that nowadays. But even, I was reading the Art of the Samurai every day for, in the mornings until I finished it recently. But even back then, they were complaining about, like, emasculation of the modern man. Back in feudal Japan. And me reading that, I was like, if you guys were fighting to the death with swords and you were worrying about people becoming less masculine, what the fuck are we looking at right now? Yeah. Like, as a man, it's a lot to take in. Like, we are viewed such a certain way. And it's kind of a privileged, I guess, methodology, for lack of a better term. It's like He-Man, the Hulk, or like Batman. Like, these are very masculine characters. But it's very different. It's like He-Man, it's like nobility, but he had this power bestowed upon him. Hulk, his power is rage, but that's also his greatest curse. And Batman is only who he is because of trauma. And these are the masculine characters. And that inspired a lot of, young children, myself included. But, like, that was, like, the idea of the ideal male body is, like, fucking hulking mass. Or at least it was. And now it's like Spider-Man, where it's like you can be leaner. But it's like...
Or dad bod.
Or dad bod, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But, and...
Be privileged for your dad bod.
Yeah, definitely. Privilege. If you're a dad bod, you require privilege.
You require it. Oh, man.
You can be emaciated and shredded at the same time if you do some push-ups, but it is what it is.
No, you're not privileged if you're emaciated.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, you could still be pretty diesel if you don't have a lot of food and all you do is work out.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's just a matter of, like, we are so overprivileged that we have become soft in this kind of conventional method. Like, even if I was less muscular, but I still exercise regularly, that would probably put me in the average category. For if all of society was like that, it'd take a little bit more. It'd take a little bit more to be viewed as something higher, for lack of a better term. And that's not why I do it, but it's just to establish these criteria, the baseline, and that we are above just by our habits. And it's quite fascinating. And in terms of the privilege, a lot of people are like me myself. Genetically speaking, in terms of an athletic performance perspective, I'm born close to the finish line. Naturally, I have good genetics. Someone who has to work harder to achieve my physique if they have worse genetics. A lot of people are, I believe is it endomorphs that are the...
Yeah, like ectomorphs or something like that.
I think endomorphs are people who put on fat and muscle more, and they oftentimes have to train harder and diet more strictly in order to maintain a muscular physique like me and Cal have. But, I'm dead in the middle. I'm a mesomorph. I can build and cut efficiently and maintain my weight. And genetically that is my privilege. But, a lot of people don't have that option. Like, you have to really analyze where you yourself have earned and, what you have become and what you have been naturally given.
Yeah, I think that's also important too, because like, what if someone doesn't value a like muscular physique, for example, right?
Exactly.
And they're like, so if someone does value a muscular physique, so say like they want to look like us, not saying we're the biggest dudes on the fucking planet, hell no.
There are guys in the gym that could bench us and then some.
And then some, yeah. But like obviously people, like, if someone has a privilege that can catapult them closer to that goal, such as genetics, obviously that is a privilege. But if for someone that doesn't give a shit about how they look, like that in that domain, that's not a privilege. They don't care. And
privilege is also a matter of perspective.
Yeah, exactly. It's based on your values. It's based on like what your goals are in life, what standards you hold to yourself, and I think that's a big thing as well too, because recognizing that, like, okay, I'm working in this one domain, I see the privilege I have, but I also recognize that it's not inherent privilege. It's based on a man-made goal in that specific area. And so, like, and it's like we said before, it's important to recognize what has helped me get to this physique, but also, once again, like you said, recognizing that not everyone holds this perspective. We kind of touched on this with like the carnivore vegan thing, like, not everyone sees everything the same way. Not everyone values the same things as you. And although it may not appear to you like that, that's also kind of, like, if you could recognize that, that's also a very good thing that you can have in yourself. And that takes hard work to develop in terms of a habit.
Yeah, and perspective is a big thing. And it was going back to the Art of the Samurai. It was, there was one... I'm going to butcher this because I forget it off the top of my head, but it was like, a man without perspective is like a tree without roots or something like that, where it's like, or like without branches, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if you do not draw from multiple sources of wisdom, you will be frail in mind.
That's a big thing with how you can recognize privilege.
Exactly, and it's like, perspective is so important because if you limit yourself to one school of thought, you will, you are missing so much. It's, lack of perspective is tunnel vision. Plain and simple.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%.
Plain and simple.
You're asleep.
And it's like, seeing that and recognizing it, that it's like, and that's why I'd like to share my social circle with people that view things so drastically different from me, so I can better understand them and how it will give me perspective on my views. Like, I have a handful of, LGBTQ friends. And as a straight dude, a muscular, straight, white male, I was also Hispanic, I'm a white Rican, thank you very much. But, they're so different from me. That's why I value their perspective that much more. Like, because I don't know what you have gone through, but tell me, and I will try and understand. And that will help me give me perspective on me, who is I'm very conventionalist. To a degree, I'm a stereotype with what I enjoy. When it comes to, what I like to get me intoxicated. I like whiskey, I like stout beer, and I like cigars. I'm very much a stereotype, but still, there's a lot of people that have differing opinions from me, and I'm a straight dude. I give off a very stereotypical tough guy vibe, but If you talk to me, I'm actually a huge fucking nerd. But, it's the differing perspectives. That's what matters. And like, especially if someone's passionate about something, I'll be like, why? Tell me why you like this so much. And if they, because if they really are truly passionate about it, they could go on for hours. As like me with martial arts. Like, you could bend my ear about it forever. And I will continue to spew and profess my love to the, to the ways of war. But nonetheless, it is still good to recognize where you stand in terms of perspective. Like, who am I? Who is he? And why does he view this that way?
Yeah, because it's like we're bringing our own subjective experiences and applying it to, like, I guess you could say the same domain. And that's a big thing with privilege as well, like someone else's perspective can help you recognize what privileges you have, like their experiences.
Or enhance your own perspective.
Enhance your own perspectives. Yeah, exactly. Like, seeing their perspective helps you enhance your own. Because let's just say they're in, I guess you could say, in that domain in a lower position. And after, like, discussing with them, you reflect on it a bit more, you realize, like, oh shit, bro, like, I didn't have to go through that. I'm lucky, And you can take a step back, recognize it, and, like I said before, realize everything that you have. And then the invisible becomes visible. And so I think, with all that being said, did you have anything else you wanted to...
Yeah, let's. I'd say we should reiterate. Let's leave the viewers with this statement and question. Do not confuse privilege with, like, privilege that has been given and privilege that has been taken to achievement. Pursuit of glory and privilege, and actualizing that pursuit, that is extremely important. Hard work is hard work. That is a constant. Where you start on the line in the face of hard work is irrelevant. It's about where you are and where you're going. Some people start behind the line, sure. But if they work hard enough, they can get way farther than some of those people that were closer to the finish line. And the question I pose to you, dear viewer, recognize what you have, where you have come from, and think of someone who might not have as much as you do. And think about where you are and what you can give to them, or what you can provide to someone else who is less fortunate. Think with what you can, fuck it. Let's give you a JFK quote, but not in the country speaking. Ask not what you can do for yourself, but what you can do for someone else.
Let's clock it out.